Welcome to Lecture 2 of An Introduction to Computer Science with Python. In this lecture, we will be further exploring the print statement. We'll go over the concept of expressions, and we will go over the super basic but super necessary topic of variables. And you'll see why in a minute. But this lecture is very loaded with new information, but it's also all very important information. So if you need to, rewind the video and keep doing that until you're very sure that you understand the concepts, because some of this stuff will be used in your entire programming learning experience. So you want to be very careful that you know this stuff. That being said, I do want you to update something in your REPL, which is the place where you type stuff. You may notice that it looks something like this, except for this lect2.py, you probably don't have this, but main.py, print hello world, blah, blah, blah. I want you to make a change to this. So what I want you to do is go in the files category, go to this thing that says add file, click that and you'll see this come up. Then I want you to type in lecture1.py. By doing this, you'll make a separate file. And this might be important in the future because if I have, say, 10 lectures and you want to see your own notes, then you want to have them each in their separate compartments or files. So I'm going to take this, cut it, and then paste it into lect1.py. Then I can have this main.py be something where like I experiment with my knowledge while keeping the lecture notes untouched. That being said, let's get into today's course material. First, I want to quickly review adding strings together. So to add two strings together without having errors, it'll look like this. Print, open parentheses, open quotation mark, string 1. That could be anything. That's a string. Close quotation mark, plus open quotation mark, string 2. Again, could be any string. And close quotation mark, then close your parentheses. A new term that I want you to notice here, this is called string concatenation. And that's just a fancy word. You might need to know it depending on what course you're taking, but that's basically a fancy word for a process of adding strings together. Not necessarily two strings. It could be 3, it could be 4. String concatenation nonetheless. So I want to have a new term in your brain. These are called and the term is called expression. I highlighted it in purple. Simply put, an expression is a message that can be put into a print statement. And some expressions are more simplified than others. For example, print hello, print open parentheses, open quotation mark, hello, close quotation mark, plus open quotation mark world, close quotation mark, close parentheses, versus print parentheses, quotation mark, hello world. Just a side note, you'll always see these parentheses whenever you call print. So from now on, I won't be saying that there are parentheses here, but you will need to type parentheses for print to work. These two statements, print hello plus world versus print hello world, give you the same output, which is capital H hello, capital W world, no space. These will both give you the same thing. But you don't really see this when you're typing the code, but when you run the code, the expression inside the print statement is always simplified before being shown to you. So when you type print hello plus world, the computer takes that statement and sort of translates it, if you will, translates it into the second statement. That'll be an important concept later on, but yeah, because this is the computer will take this and say, can I simplify it? If it can, then it'll simplify it, and it can simplify this into this. And another way of thinking about it is that print hello plus world is hello plus world simplified enough? If it isn't, then I'll try to simplify it. And if it is, then do nothing. So this will be simplified into this before being put out onto your display here. And this is just the process that the computer takes when it's simplifying an expression. Mind you, this is an expression. This is also an expression, but the computer just simplifies this expression into this before giving it to the print statement. So it begins with hello plus world, and then the computer translates that into hello world, and then gives hello world to the print statement. You can use the print statement in math too. These four math symbols work with two ints or integers. Again, ints are numbers that don't have quotation marks around them. Those are ints. For example, print 4 plus 2, notice the lack of quotation marks, will give you a 6. Print 4 minus 2 will output to a 2. Print 4 times 2 will output an 8. And print 4 divided by 2 will output into 2.0. As you can see, print 4 divided by 2 is the division sign in that is a slash. / is next to the right shift key. And for multiplication, print 4 times 2, this times thing is an asterisk, which is shift 8. And obviously, simplifying expressions happen in math too. So you'll find 4 plus 2 evaluates into 6 before being sent into the print statement. A special expression when using math symbols for print, try print hello times 3. I'll actually do this here too. So notice that 3 doesn't have quotation marks around it. Hello does. And this will not give me an error. It'll actually output hello, hello, hello. If you're having trouble thinking about how this works, then allow me to give you the visualization of it, which is this. So it starts with hello times 3, then recognizes this times logo and puts that in between these two expressions, hello and 3. Then, if you're familiar with multiplication, you know that it can also be written as repeated addition. For example, 2 times 3 is equal to 2 plus 2 plus 2. Following a similar logic here, hello times 3 is hello plus hello plus hello. The computer knows how to do this, so it switches this into hello, hello, hello. On a similar note, why you can't subtract strings is because the computer does not know how to simplify the two strings that are being subtracted. And if the computer cannot simplify something enough, then there's a problem and it gives an error. So if you think about it, print hello minus world. How does the computer simplify this? Well, first the computer asks, is it simplified? No, it's not simplified. A simplified expression would have one string or one int, but this has two, so it's not simplified. So then the computer says, great, then I'll simplify it. But since the computer can't simplify this, it doesn't know what to do. So it raises or it gives an error. See? This is a super important concept, so I'm going to go extra slow here, but variables are variables are very important in simple code, in hard pieces of code, but I find it better to explain variables through demonstration. So you are going to try this too. Try x equals 5. Skip a line, so press the return key or enter key. Then say print x. A few things to note here. X is not an int, and it is also not a string. It is its own thing, sort of. But side note, it's not a data type. It's just a different idea altogether. But print x, notice that this x doesn't have a quotation mark either. It's just on its own. We'll run this. What do you think? What do you think it'll output? Well, let's see. See, it outputs 5. You might be able to tell because x is 5. So when it prints x, then x being 5, it prints 5. So what's going on here? Again, super important concept, and I really want to make sure that you understand this. A variable simply points to an expression. The pointer, also known as the variable, has a name, and the expression that it points to can be changed. In the example, the name is x, and the expression that x points to is 5. So here, the name of the variable is x, and x points to an expression using 5, points to an expression that is 5, and it does that, it points to that using this equals symbol. To access the expression, you can just use the variable name, no quotes. So in a variable name, you cannot have quotes, and when you're printing it, don't put quotes around it either. So in computer memory, these are just statements, and this is what happens. Same with this. This is what's before, and this is after. So x equals 5 before, x is nothing. It's not 0, it's nothing because we didn't tell it to be anything before. So before, there's just nothing here. Then after, x, using the equal sign, points to an expression that is 5. Let's run x equals 6. Before, x points to 5. Notice the same variable. This is the same variable. So before x points to 5, and then x points to 6. It's the same, the expression changed, and the fact that it changed makes variables very, very, very powerful and lets you do things that you really can't do without them, such as calculators, for example. You would sometimes, in like more advanced math, you need variables to hold more values, but without variables, it's even worse in a computer because you you really can't do much if you don't have a variable. That's why they're found in so many places. Anyways, this is a continued visualization of variables in computer memory. So x equals 3 plus 1. Before x is pointing to 6, that's from this slide, see, here. But before, that's x points to 6. Then, in step 2, x goes from 3 plus 1 to x equals 4. This is because the computer, like the print statement, simplifies this 3 plus 1 and turns it into an equivalent x equals 4. Then, afterwards, it changes the expression that it points to from 6 to 4. Hopefully that was easy to follow, but moving on. Variable naming guidelines will be covered in the next lecture because there are a lot of rules that you have to follow or should follow when naming your variables. But for now, you can use a REPL to explore variables. Try adding two variables together, for instance. For example, you might say variable 1 equals 5 or 6, variable 2 is 7. Then you can print variable 1 plus variable 2. And you'll get 6 plus 7 because this points to this and variable 2 points to 7. So 6 plus 7 is 13. You press run. Turns out that's what you get, 13. As you can see, you can have a lot of fun with variables. You could even have, dare I say, a third variable. Variable 3 equals 8 plus variable 1 plus variable 2 plus variable 3 will give you 6 plus 7 plus 8, which is 21. But if you want to name your variables, just know this will be further specified in the future, but for now, to avoid getting errors, please only use letters to name your variables. More naming directions will be provided in the future because this lecture has gotten very long and it has been a very, very intensive lecture. So I want to make sure that you're digesting all of the information because this stuff is not to be glossed over. That being said, have a great day. Thanks for watching this lecture, and I will make another one and see you then.